What's up, you guys? Dan Ferrero here, and in this video I'm going to teach you how I make a lead gen KPI database using GoHigh, Zapier, and Airtable. This video is going to be a little bit of a continuation of a video I shot out a couple of weeks ago, so if you want to catch that video, you can see it in the description below. With that said though, let's check this one out. So the first thing we're going to want to do is actually create our columns for our database. So I'm just starting from where I left off in that video I mentioned. So we got first name, last name, email, phone number, some very basic stuff that we want to get when creating a lead database. We have the lead ID, which I showed in the last video how to create and like kind of what its value is, right? We need it to be able to speak between two different platforms. That way we can always pull from this data point when we're trying to update records in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding some columns. I'm going to add date fields actually. This one's going to be called lead in. And the reason why I'm doing date fields is because they're very handy to A, just know that it happened, and B, you have the actual date. So if you need to like organize by like months to date or monthly stats, you can do that. So appointment booked. Next we want to track no-show. A lot of this video is going to be extremely repetitive because it's a complicated automation, but it's not that complicated. You know what I mean? Like it's complicated, but it's just repetitive. This is sat. This is going to be closed one. And let's create closed, or let's just call this lost. Date, create field. All right, so we have our fields. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to just preemptively create an automation that I know I'm going to need in the future, just so we don't have to come back to it. But I'm going to go to automations. I'm going to add a trigger. And this is going to be when a record is updated. Okay, I'm going to select my table, select my fields, and the field is going to be sat. Let's just actually, yeah, it's going to be sat, and we're going to choose our record. Let's do the one that actually has data in it. Okay, and next what we're going to do is a conditional logic, and our condition is going to be if no show is not empty. If no show is not empty, add action. We're going to update the record to make sure that, grab our record ID really quick. We want to make sure that no show becomes empty, right? Now, why am I doing that? The reason why I'm doing that is because a lot of times you might have a no-show that eventually sits, and so if you get to the point where you don't want to have to go back and manually delete the no-shows. So this basically what this automation is doing, it's looking to see if there is a no-show date field, and if there is, then it will delete that date field when this new sat record is added. So let's go ahead and turn this on, and I will go ahead and name this automation remove no show. The next one I'm going to create is actually basically the same thing. So when record is updated in this table and the field being lost, let's go ahead and choose this one. We're going to do a conditional logic if one, closed one, is not empty. So in this case, like if you mark them as closed and for whatever reason they cancel after the fact and you move them to lost, we're going to remove that closed one from our stats. Okay, add action. We're going to update the record table 1, record ID like so, and our closed one will then be empty. Generate preview, and that should technically work. I won't know until I actually test it though. So let's do remove one. Turn it on, and we should be good with Airtable. Pretty straightforward database here. You can add stuff like sources or different things so you can track like different parts of your lead gen, but in this case we're just gonna stick it to the basics here. So now we're gonna jump into HighLevel and we're gonna do a couple things. So we're gonna go into our settings and we're going to create some custom fields just so that we can track in both locations these data points. So we have lead in, click save, go ahead and put this in additional info, and let's just try to organize this in a good way. Got field, date picker, lead in, point, and booked, same deal. Oh shoot, and actually I said I was going to organize it and I didn't. Let me edit this really quick and put a 2. Add field, date picker again. Like I said, this is going to be extremely repetitive, so now show, save, add field, date picker for sat, save, add field, date picker, closed one, additional info, around 5, then add field again for lost, additional info, save. Cool. So now that we've created those custom fields, let's go ahead and work on our automation. So let's go to automation, create workflow. Let's start from scratch. And so this one is going to be a fun one to build out. So let's just go ahead and call this KPI database. Let's go ahead and allow re-entry, because sometimes people will fill it out twice. I mean, you can count it as double leads. It's fine. And triggers. So first trigger, opportunity created. Add filter. In pipeline, lead pipeline, pipeline stage is lead in. Save trigger. My bad. Save trigger. And actually, I'm going to rename these just so that I have a visual of what I'm doing. So we got lead in, opportunity changed in pipeline, lead pipeline, pipeline stage, appointment booked. And keep going for all of them. Pipeline stage is no show. And like I said, it's really good to keep this organized so that you know what each trigger is doing. I tend to forget sometimes when I'm doing this fast. Appointment booked, this is the no-show one. Next, opportunity changed. We are going to do in pipeline again, lead pipeline. We got to do this, what was it, like 6 times? No-show, appointment booked. We want to do SAT. Call this SAT. And maybe we'll fast forward through this stuff so this video isn't super long, but lead pipeline, pipeline stage, closed 1. And then lost. Opportunity changed in pipeline. Lost. Cool. Now that we have all of our triggers, next we have to do if-else statements. So let's go ahead and start with our large branch of if-else statements. So like I said at the beginning, we are putting that last automation in that last video. We're basically putting it on steroids. So bear with me because this is long and there's a lot of conditions. So let's say we have the lead in trigger. Okay. Workflow trigger. And you know what? Maybe this won't. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to save. And I'm going to refresh because since I just added those workflow triggers, it's not going to pop up as an option to use until I refresh it. So now that I have that, let's go ahead and do if else. And the action is workflow trigger is lead in. Cool. So call this the lead in branch. Save that. So we're starting off with just this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go into Zapier. I'm going to create my Zap. I'm just going to grab the webhook that I need. So let's just go ahead and do this. Webhook. If you use it a lot, it should just be there. Catch hook. Copy. And so here we're going to do update contact field. And we're going to find the lead in custom field. And we're going to put in the current date. That's how we're going to timestamp this stuff in HighLevel. And then I'm going to put in a webhook so that we send it to Zapier. Okay, so we have lead in done. Let's go back to our conditions. This is like build out our branches. So we want to add a branch, and we're going to add a couple of branches, but this is going to be appointment booked. And do I have to, workflow trigger is appointment booked. I'll add a no show workflow trigger is no show. I'm going to have a no show to sit. So if workflow trigger is sat and contact details, yeah, I think we use contact details and no show is not empty, so that means no show exists. I'm going to do that branch, and then I'm also just going to do a branch where they don't no show. So this one's just going to be sat, and workflow trigger is sat, add a branch. This one is going to be closed one. Workflow trigger is closed one, add branch, closed one to lost. This is basically just following the same thing we did with the Airtable automation. So let's take a look and do workflow trigger is lost and contact details closed one is not empty, and then finally lost. Okay, so we have all these conditions. What are we going to do now? So I'm just going to copy this, put it here, except for this I'm going to do appointment booked. Copy. I'm going to copy this. Multiple times. Cool. So we have this. Now this one is not going to be booked. It's going to be no show. This one's not going to be no show or booked. It's going to be considered a sit. This one will also be considered a sit. This one will be a closed one. This one will be considered lost. And this one will also be considered lost. Okay, so there's two caveats here. In this, I need to do a update contact field again, clear data field in this case, and since we are going from no show to sit, I want no show to be cleared. Okay, and in this one, I'll copy this and put it here. I want this one to do the same thing but with one. Okay, awesome. Now I just need to copy this webhook all the way around. Okay. Awesome. So let's save this. Make sure it saves, because as you can tell, I do not want to have to do that again. Publish, save, and we officially have our automation in HighLevel ready. So next piece is going to be to work on our Zapier automation, which also is kind of a pain. So let's just dive right into it. So let's go into Zapier. We have our catch hook. The first thing we're going to want to do is pathways. Okay. And in the first pathway, I might have to actually do a test. So let's do that. Let's do a test first. So this is active, and it should technically work. So let's go back to workflows, sites, surveys, builder, and grab this survey. Actually, I'm gonna have to double check to see if this is even working. So the lead survey. Okay. Lead survey, create opportunity, lead in. So that should technically trigger our webhook. So let's go ahead and try that. Survey builder, lead survey, integrate. Let's grab it here. Let's fill this out. I agree. Submit. So let's test Zapier. Okay, so we got our data, and we're going to go and check out our pathways. We're going to continue with this record. And then we're going to work on our pathways really quick. So we're going to say, I think I'm going to search it. I think it's pipeline stage. And we're going to do exactly matches, lead in, continue. And you'll get like a green light when you create that. Next, we're going to go to Airtable. Going to create record. Choose your account. Continue. Select your database, which in our case is the new leads. Select our table. And now we're just going to put in the data that we want to input. So from our data, we have first name, last name, email, phone number. Right, we have a lead in date. I'll just search it. And we don't have any of this other stuff quite yet, but that should be covered. Go ahead and test that. Good. Now we're going to go to HighLevel. In this case on Zapier, it's called Lead Connector. I'm going to update a contact. Let's go ahead and grab my first name, last name, and I need email, phone number here, email. Remember, you need to have email and phone number. That is how HighLevel locates the existing contact. Let's do that. And then not lead in, but lead ID. We want to get that from here. Test that step and it should be good. Awesome. Next, if we want to rename this, rename it lead in. Let's go ahead and rename this one appointment booked. Now, what are the rules here? Continue if pipeline stage exactly matches, and just to be sure, it's appointment booked, spelled just like that. Okay. Okay, so in order to move forward, I'm going to have to send another test that is for appointment booked. So what I'm going to do is go back here and get a new request. And the way I'm going to do that is just going to drag this over to appointment booked. That should then re-trigger that workflow in HighLevel. I'm going to find records. I have request B. And I'm going to continue with the selected record. The next step is going to be a find record for Airtable. So let's go ahead and find the record. With our database, table 1, search by field is going to be lead ID. The search value is going to be the lead ID that we just put back in. Click continue, let's test. Okay. Let's go ahead and add a step here. And it's going to be update record, or Airtable, sorry. Update record. Again, new leads from GHL, table 1, record being custom, record ID. And basically what we're going to do is update the appointment booked date here. So from our catch hook, we grab our appointment book date, click continue, test the step, and we're good. So now basically you just have to do that for all of them. So let's just go ahead and create our pathways. Pathways being, am I able to copy? Oh, I can. And I will paste to replace. Paste to replace. In this case, it's not going to be appointment booked. This is going to be no show. This is going to be, I need to remember, appointment, this is sat. No show. Sat. Add 2 more pathways. Here we are going to do copy, paste to replace, paste to replace, closed 1, and this is going to be lost. Now that that's set, we need to find record and update record. So we're going to copy this. Paste it here. Again, just duplicate across the board. And we will be doing a very similar action. Table 1, lead ID. Yep. It's all going to be basically the same thing. And then at the end, we're going to update the record in all of them. So copy. Apologies. Paste to replace. Action. We want to find the record here. So you're going to have to replace all of these just to make sure it works. And find appointment booked is taken off, and we're going to add no show. Might just have to skip a bunch of the tests because we don't have this data, so just to be able to publish it. But let's go copy this. Paste to replace. Let's do this as quickly as possible so we can test our Zap. Paste to replace. So let's work on this one by one. And when you're doing this, you got to make sure you're pulling from the right step. So you'll notice that this is step 13, so we're pulling from step 13. This is going to be sat. So I want to add sat here. Skip test. Here I'm going to go back, and you'll notice that this is going to be 16, right? That's the correct record. Hold on one sec. Okay. 16 ID. Instead of no show, we are doing one. Closed one. As you can see, there's a lot of mistakes you can make along the way. You just got to be really quick at debugging it and just moving on. So skip this test. I guess we'll test this and finish off with this one. Yeah, I might not even edit out some of these mistakes so that you guys see like what could actually happen when you're building one of these out, because it's almost never going to go right the first time. So we want to add lost, continue, test step, cool. couple things. I want to rename this to closed one. Rename this to lost. And it seems like I have one small error. In order to get this going, maybe I have to test these out. There we go. If you ever see like little triangles with exclamation points like this thing, it means there's something wrong and it's going to stop you from turning on your Zap. I'm going to hit publish. Okay, and that is the Zap. So we have our automation and HighLevel, and we will retest this soon. But we have our automation and HighLevel, which is which one was it? It was it this one? KPI database? Yeah. Like so. Triggered based off of different stage changes in your opportunity. So dispositioning is very important. I will say that human touch and like user error when it comes to dispositioning will play a factor in whether or not your stats are correct. For example, if somebody sits an appointment and they drag it from appointment booked straight to closed, you're going to miss that data point of the sit. And so you can build in like if-else statements depending on like trends that you see from your salespeople or from the people who are dispositioning, because yes, it is a little bit annoying to have to go from booked to sat to closed if you like do a one call close, for example. But you can preemptively like fix that stuff if you're with your if-else statements. I did not do that in this example, but you can just know that you can do that. We have our Zap, which moves everything to Airtable in real time as they get moved over in HighLevel, and then we have our Airtable database with all of the information that we need. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a test. Refresh this. I'm actually going to delete, because I don't like to I accidentally use the same thing over and over again and it doesn't work, so I'm gonna delete that. And let's just go with Johnny testing. Email johntest@gmail.com and make up some bogus phone number. Click submit. Thank you for taking the time. Let's look at the opportunities. Lead pipeline, let's give it a sec to populate here. There it is, Johnny testing and Johnny testing. So we have our thing, we have lead in here. So let's say we book an appointment with this guy. Appointment booked. We're gonna have to give it a sec because this isn't gonna be super instantaneous. It has to go through 2 automations to get to Airtable. So let's give it a second here. And there it is. It got updated. Now I'm gonna move it to no show. Wait for it. Alright, cool. There's the no-show. Next, I will move this over to sat. And if you remember in the beginning of our video, if sat comes after there's a no-show already in there, it should remove the no-show. So keep that in mind. So there's sat. and it removed no-show. Awesome. Next, closed one. Just testing these one by one, making sure they work. Cool. And then if they go to lost, it should technically delete the closed one and add a lost in there. There you go. We got a lost state and closed one is empty. So let's go back here. Let's go to our lead and let's just check out his additional info. So we got our lead ID, our lead in date, appointment book date, no show date is empty, sat is filled out, closed one is not, and lost is not filled out. So there you go. It all worked. So perfect. You can kind of see the value and the power behind just like a basic push data from one place to another automation. With this data, as you start accumulating leads and tracking where they are in the sales cycle, you'll be able to tell, you know, your lead to appointment percentage, your appointment to sit percentage, your no-show percentage, and your closing percentage. So all basic like sales stats that are very vital when it comes to like wanting to grow, you know, your sales business. And so with that said, I mean, that's the end of the video. If you found this helpful at all, don't be afraid to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate when I see a new subscriber there. And if there's anything else you'd like to see, shoot it in the comments and I'll try to make a video on it. So I'll see you in the next one.